I'm happy to hear though, like 3 weeks after and you're not thinking about him. Like that's crazy.
I am a Gemini, so my toxic trait is I tie everything into my zodiac sign.
Welcome back to another episode of Looking For. You guys, this is the last episode. I can't believe it. So since it is my last episode of this series, it's kind of fitting today that we are talking about the end of certain stages in life, or as I like to call it, looking for new beginnings. This is especially helpful that we're doing this with Bumble because, as you know, Bumble is a platform designed to help you make connections, whether you're dating or looking for new friends. Today on the show, I am joined by Paget and Isha Punja. Ian is an actor, he is a TikToker and a podcast host of It's Giving Share. And Isha is a designer and a content creator, and she was on 20 Somethings in Austin. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to my living room.
Thank you. Love the vibe.
It's going to be an interesting episode.
Definitely very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to get in it.
Yeah, we are. So you guys have both gone through significant endings this past year. How has it been?
Mine was pretty recent. It was honestly like now a month ago. And I think in a lot of ways, I thought it was going to take me a very long time to get over. I thought the rule was however long you were dating for, it takes you double the amount of time to get over it.
I learned that on Sex and the City.
Oh, really? Okay, I just heard it. But so I was like, okay, we were dating for almost a year, so it's going to take me 2 years to get over it. Great. I'll be like 27, still crying over him. But I got over it. I think I'm getting over it.
Yeah, it's a process.
But I don't think about him anymore, and it's only been like a month.
That's
so
good.
Wow.
That's really good.
By the grace of God.
Truly, that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that I'm in that same boat, but mine was like in December, so I think that's like almost 6 or 7 months now. And I think it's a little, I don't know like your ex's like presence on social media, but mine is quite present on social media. And so that has been one of the hardest things is just like still seeing someone, every day.
Yeah.
And it feels like as much distance as I'm trying to like give myself and ourselves, like, it's been a really interesting thing to like work through.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like constantly having to see what they're doing is also like so painful.
Yeah.
Because if I also have like a very public relationship, and if me and my partner were to break up, like I would just be constantly checking like, what is he doing? Does he look happy? Oh, he got that brand deal. Like I'd be super competitive, and like I feel like I am not in a place where I would be able to handle that like in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. So like, how do you do that?
Oh my God. I mean, TikTok makes it a little hard because you can't like mute someone.
Yeah.
And so like, I think you guys should fix that. But like truly, I really do. And so I just have surrounded myself around people who keep me present and like maybe like I'm not on my phone as much, but then I'm also battling like trying to keep up my social media presence as well, because even though I didn't ask for it and it was all an accident, I have been granted this like amazing access to the world, and like it's literally changed my life. But at the same time, I have to balance that off with like, okay, tending to myself like mentally, emotionally, and we're friends, but like I just can't look at the page sometimes.
Yeah, I totally.
Because then I just I can spiral or whatever, and then you start wondering like, oh, like it looks like there's so much fun happening. Like, is this person still thinking about me? Like I'm still thinking about that, and like that kind of thing. Yeah. And that's very real. Yeah. And who knows how long that will go away. But it goes in waves. There are days where I'm like super present about like a more hopeful energy, and I'm like, oh, like things are okay, and then like one little thing and you're just back at wondering all about them.
The triggers.
Yeah and that's normal, and it's totally fine. So I'm happy to hear though, like 3 weeks after and you're not thinking about him. Like that's crazy.
I am a Gemini, so my toxic trait is I tie everything into my zodiac sign. But I think it is maybe my theory is that it's a survivalistic thing. Like I think sometimes when we go through, this was like my first serious relationship. It was also a public relationship, and both of our first serious relationships, both of our first loves. And I think in some ways it might have been that it was so painful that my brain just kind of shut it off. Because I'll find myself, and I think another thing that I've learned recently that I'm working on is maybe also antagonizing the person because you want them. It's easier to forget about someone and get over somebody that you antagonize and make out to be a bad person. But then when you start remembering all the good things and missing the person, then that's when the heartbreak stays longer. So I think in some ways I'm just on my screw this, I'm over it, whatever thing. And it does hit me sometimes late at night. But I will say I don't find myself thinking about him very often.
Yeah, that's good.
So, or necessarily, even if I check up on his social media, I'm not triggered by a lot of it. I mean, a little bit I am to some degree, but not as much as I thought. And I think it's because fundamentally I know this was the right
choice
thing to happen.
For both of you.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I know partings can be such sweet sorrow, but it's really important to feel your emotions and have a catharsis of emotions. And I want you guys to know that this is a safe space, and I want to hear all about your stories. So let's dig in.
I feel like I've learned a lot about myself since breaking up with Chris, and since we broke up with each other, and I am a lot more aware and deeply accepting of the fact that I feel very deeply. I'm very sensitive, and I think those were things that I wasn't aware of literally 6 months ago. And so now I'm in this place where I do have a fondness for the I have a memory of it that yes, there's triggering moments and I feel sad, and I miss him, or that will always be there. I just don't think you can share energy and life with someone in that way and a meaningful connection, and then all of a sudden they just become someone else you used to know. That happens anyway, but
still lives within you.
This person will always we literally our lives changed together, and we changed the world is really what happened. And we were such an idea of love for people, and that I will never forget that. That just makes me anyway, it's just a beautiful thing. And I think back about wow, there's been a lot of growth since this relationship, and reverting back to habits that I also want to get rid of. It's an up and down, kind of process. And I do feel yes, things are meant to be, and if they happen the way they do, that was the way it was supposed to. But the feelings that arise around those situations make me feel upset, angry, I'm almost I resent that they happened, even though I know deep down fundamentally they were there to teach me something. You know what I mean? But I am feeling a lot more kind of deeply connected to myself, and wondering what it is I want to do, and he taught me a lot of things. I learned a lot of things about myself after, and that's what I kind of think is maybe hard to get to right after breakup, but that is what tends to be the next step, and I think I'm there.
That's really good.
Yeah.
You should be proud of yourself. Breakups are really intense. They're very, especially for a deep feeling person. I consider myself also someone who feels really, really deeply, and this is an aside, but being political, I feel a lot of the really horrible things that happen in politics really deeply, and ending a relationship that is such an emotional really that's so rooted in emotion and heart and soul and love, that's really difficult to let go of. So I think the progress you've made is something that's really inspiring. And I feel because I'm 20 years old, I don't know where my relationship is going to take me. I hope it lasts for a very long time, but I never know. But hearing that you can get to a point where you're learning a lot about yourself, and it doesn't wreck your life entirely, is really nice to hear.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So I want to hear about your breakup as well, and mostly about what the stages were of how you processed that breakup and how you got to the incredible place that you are at now.
I mean, I think I said earlier that I definitely I've gotten over it in 3 weeks, but it is still a process. I think I'm regarding that as getting over it sooner than I thought I would, or getting better than I thought I would. But there's obviously stages to everything, and life is in the gray. It's not black and white. So I'm not completely over it, but I am way a lot more over it than I thought I would be. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of things I've learned about myself as well in the process of the relationship as well as through the breakup. And I think the stages are, in the beginning, there's a lot of combination of anger and I guess just like a loss of hope. There's a feeling of a loss of hope. You feel like the world is like just gray. You feel like you're never going to love again. You feel like life is just not going to be colorful again.
Yeah.
I also feel like to some degree when you're in a really deep relationship, you do kind of form an identity based off of the role you play in that relationship. And I think kind of there's this feeling of not even knowing who you are. The loneliness within yourself. Like, who am I? I don't even know like how to think anymore. This is something I would text him. This is something I would share with him. And then you don't, and you can't. And so there's that feeling. The weirdest thing I think I experienced actually that I just never saw coming was you think you're going to miss the person after a breakup, but you miss yourself. You miss a part of yourself that you were in that relationship.
Wow.
And how you interacted with that person.
That's so,
right?
yes.
Because it's like, I used to be this like really vulnerable person that trusted so deeply. And that was just
around
so,
him, like with him, and like
and I had never been like that with any other guys. I had a very cynical attitude towards guys. I was put off by a lot of them. I thought they all sucked. I didn't think men were capable of falling in love. Like I didn't think all these things. And then I fell in love with him, and I forgot. I didn't care what I looked like first thing in the morning. I didn't care how I looked when I ate. And then having to relearn that stuff as you go on dates with new guys, having to reacclimate to texting somebody for the first time. All of that is forms of grief and in ways that you just never anticipate. And it's not like you're screaming and journaling, but there's this little bit of grief you feel when you're texting someone new and it's not the same, or you don't understand their communication style, or they're flaky or whatever, and you're dealing with these things when you're dating again, and you can't even be mad at it because you're like, you're not my boyfriend. Right?
Yeah,
wow.
that's so real.
And it leaves you really cynical and really just like, screw it all, I'm done with it all. But I will say that those are all the stages that I think I've experienced. And then there's a lot of anger because you're resentful to the person for, then you think back on the relationship, you think back on things that you missed, and then you go, well, I should have brought this up, I should have brought that up, And then I think the place that I've finally kind of rested at, and this is I think where I'll be, is just like actually fondness. Like, you know what? No, like we had something great, and my friends were telling me when it first happened, they're like, just wish him the best, wish him peace with his life, and like let him move on. And I was like, and you move on with your life. And I'm like, no, I can't wish him the best. And now I genuinely do, I think. I'm like,
well, because also not to interrupt you, even though I am,
No,
is like when you're not able to do that, like that's just where you were in that moment. And then like if you don't want to wish them, or you're like, I'm so angry at them, like that anger is like at you. Like that anger only lives with you. You know what I mean? It's
they
like
don't know.
They're not having that scene with you, but do you know what I mean?
It's
like
more toxic to you.
Yeah, all it's doing is affecting you,
poison.
But those are why we have the stages of grief, is because like you're gonna go through that section and you're gonna get tired of that, and then you're gonna move to the next one. And you're gonna be like, okay, like it's just how the waves like form. It's just what they do. You know what I mean? So like everything you went through makes total sense. Even though maybe in the moment you're like, I want to like stay in this because it feels powerful, because it's like I was feeling maybe like such remorse and sorrow that like that feels like trauma, and the trauma can feel like debilitating, and you feel like, oh, like I don't know what to do. And I feel like the opposite of trauma is power.
Yeah.
You know,
and
anger can help push you in a direction that feels more powerful.
That is
so a really good point.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You're really right about. But then
because we also
just
discussed earlier before podcast that like you were saying like, I don't like my anger or something like that, and I was just like, I heard that and I thought like, yeah, I get that, because you want to be like good to yourself and you want to be good in the world. At least I kind of share that same sentiment, but like denying the anger just bottles it up somewhere else, and it will like bleed in some other way in your life. And so to make friends with your anger and be like, I am angry, is like very okay. Do you know what I mean? Like to build a healthy relationship. Yeah, exactly. Like just because it's something that we're scared of being perceived as like angry. You know what I mean? But like,
I don't want to project that anger onto anyone else in my life either.
Sure, of course. But if you're feeling it, like feel the thing and like move through it and accept it and make friends with it and be like, okay.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah, thank you. I need to hear that.
Aw, you're welcome.
I think something that like I've noticed even in like friendship dissolutions is that like not every relationship you have in your life is supposed to be a lifelong relationship, and some relationships come into your life to teach you something and to form a part of who you end up becoming, and they don't last forever, and that's like healthy and normal. And though I haven't experienced that on a romantic level, like I have experienced that in friendships, and I think people experience that with like family relationships or work relationships or like any type of relationship out there, that they are meant to serve you in one way, and when they end, it serves you in another way, and that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's so real. That it's serving you in a way you couldn't have imagined after the fact is like so out of your control.
Yeah.
So it feels wild.
Yeah.
You're like, and I don't know about everyone else, but like when you feel that sense of like like that lack of control, and you don't have the person who was helping you feel better about just being able to share those vulnerable moments and who was your person, like that, it's all left on you. And that's why it's like I was so thankful for my family and like support and friends, and like learning to like be okay to like share your experience and be vulnerable with them again, because you were maybe only doing that with your one person, and like that feels, you just have to like get back on that bike. That's like weird. It's crazy.
So given that your relationship ended so recently, how have you found a sense of stabilization, and like how have you stayed grounded and empowered when left in such like an emotionally turbulent state?
I mean, in the beginning, it was definitely super hard. That first week, I didn't, post anything. I left a lot of my friends on red. Like, I didn't even bother explaining to some people. I think one of my friends texted me and he asked how it was going, and I was just like, I can't even like really talk about this right now. Like, I just was in that bubble. And then I think, so I tend to feel things very deeply, and I think that's what helps me get over things also very quickly. Like it's never taken me a very long time to get over any guy or anything, actually, because I think I just feel so much that like it just, in that moment, it's almost like I can't even feel anymore. It hurts so bad, but then it just, after a while, the feeling just kind of goes away. And so I think in the ways that I've managed to stay grounded and empowered, number one, I think female friendships are very, very healing. Like, I think in a lot of ways when I was in the relationship, I didn't do this purposefully, but like the weekend comes, and if you're in a relationship, usually from Friday through Sunday, you're spending the whole weekend together. They're sleeping over. They have their toothbrush at your place, and your friends are texting you, "Come to this bar, come here," and like they're all single, and I'm like, "Can I bring him with me?" And then he doesn't want to go, and so a lot of times it just ended up being this thing where slowly over a period of time, I started neglecting some of my female friendships. So after, what really helped me heal, kind of like what you were saying about the community and with your family, like I think for me, like female friendships, like literally going over and just like drinking wine and like watching the Billie Eilish documentary, or even me telling them about something to do with the relationship, or building up a dating profile or whatever. And then I think that helps a lot. And then I think another thing that's helped a lot is a realization. Like I go for a lot of walks and I meditate a lot, especially in the mornings. And this realization has hit me that like it is a gift to be able to not just be loved, but it's a gift to experience the feeling of loving another person, especially unconditionally loving another person. Like I love this person unconditionally to the point that it didn't matter what job he had or how much money he made or what he looked like on certain days, or if he, like, it didn't matter, like none of this stuff mattered. And to be able to love somebody like that is crazy, because it's like the universe is like flowing all of this unconditional abundant energy through you, like you're a vessel, and so in that way I'm like, I was able to give, and it's like,
and then it gets taken, it's like it goes away.
Yeah, and it goes away, and it's hard because when it goes away, you're just like, part of, I think, what I missed is the feeling of giving love. Yeah. But then I realized, like, I don't have to stop doing that. I can still do that. I can still, like, even people that I don't even know that well, I can still fundamentally love who they are and not expect anything from them either. So I think I'm now at a place where I'm looking to give of myself, actually, a lot. So when I'm dating or talking to new guys, I'm looking to, like, give of myself in a way that makes me feel whole and empowered and fulfilled, and makes me walk away feeling like I was myself and I've appreciated this person for who they are, but I don't actually really expect anything in return because I want to focus on not needing anything from anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like going off of what you were saying, I really, I had a friend who was like, the stuff you're feeling that might feel scary or that feels like it's like keeping you in a place like of sadness, that sadness only means that you loved. It means that like what you experienced like was love.
Yeah.
You lived that thing. And when I remember when he told me that, I was like, you're totally right. And I really, really believe that.
Yeah.
Like I'm someone who really lives in that like middle place of like sadness and joy or love, because the sadness just reminds me. That's why like on a plane I'm having that cathartic experience, because it's reminding me about like the love I do feel. You know what I mean?
Like
and
your
so,
ability to love.
yeah, and like
which
you
is
did
beautiful.
that. Like you just sort of forget because it ended, and so you're just like, oh, like I'm picking up the pieces and you have to move forward, but like remember like what you just experienced was like beautiful.
Yeah.
And why you're feeling so deeply is because you loved so deeply.
Yeah. That's really beautiful.
A big thing that helped me was like seeing art, going to see like theater. I hadn't traveled in a while, and I remember I was like, I like need to get out of LA for a second, and I need to go somewhere where pre-Chris and Ian used to be. And so I went to New York, and I gave myself like the artist trip. I was just like, okay, like we're going to New York and we're gonna go see some shows. And I saw Into the Woods, and like I learned what's going on with me through art. So seeing Into the Woods or A Strange Loop, even movies, like a 5-hour flight is where I am the most vulnerable. Literally, like Chris would laugh and he would be like, you always cry on a flight, because I'm watching a movie. It's like, there's just this like sort of, I don't know why. It's like this incubated period of time where you're just like, no one needs me.
Yeah.
I can't be anywhere.
Yeah.
So what I'm about to do right now is like really delve into something that makes me feel good. Whatever, maybe not, but that's like my experience. I tend to watch things that I've either seen before or that they just trigger me in a way. And all of a sudden, like I'm on a flight and I am having a cathartic experience. And it's like my favorite thing about it, because I do have some realizations, like whatever sorrow or longing or thing I'm feeling about the piece that brought it out of me ends up making me feel super appreciative. And like it just turns on like a big, like, I don't know, like it just wakes me up, and I'm like, oh, like there's my compassion. Like, oh, I want to feel more present. Like I want to tell the people I love them. And it just gets you to like kind of think and feel. And so like that, I remember that week was like really cathartic. I was like, I don't know what Disney movie I watched on the plane, but it was something, and it made me feel a bunch of things. Then I saw this art, and I felt like I was able to process things through other people's words. Like a script, you know, a Sondheim score is just like what I needed in that moment, and it helped me through my own grief. So like that kind of stuff sparked joy and like appreciation in me again.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you would like go over to your friend's house and drink wine and have these like really feel good moments, and they would maybe help you get on like a dating app or kind of just look around. And I think this is a really good opportunity to talk about Bumble. If you're ready, Bumble is a great choice to help you set the pace and control of your own dating experience. The app has features like snooze mode and incognito mode, where you can look around on the app without being seen, and that is setting your own personal dating intentions on your own terms. So because it's so on your own pace and in your own control, I think that this dating experience is so like in tune to the way that you are feeling on your own personal journey. Have you guys like experienced that at all? Have you tried going on dates? Have you tried doing dating apps? Does that scare you? Like,
I'm not on a dating app. Yeah, I'm a little too. I just like,
not ready yet.
Yeah, like I just I can tend to be like super indecisive about like decisions in general. So like that kind of thing is just so far down the list of like that conscious choice. But then like you think about, oh, I wonder if like, are they doing that? Like, are they jumping on a dating app? Like, and so you're like, well, should I be, you know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of listening to my own gut and just kind of following like what I think I want to do. And if I don't want to do anything, that is okay.
Yeah.
That's really important, because I definitely, the wondering of like, are they going around doing, you know, I think it does help for me because he moved. That was actually a big part of the breakup, was he had to move. A lot of it was just circumstantial as well, but which helps because in that way I'm not forced to like see him on a dating app or anything like that. I went back and forth like putting up and taking off my profiles, because I'd put my profile up and then a guy would literally message me or match with me and message me saying, "Oh no, you and Michael broke up." That was his message to me as he's hitting on me. And I was like, wait, you're matching with me and you're bringing up my breakup. That is like really inappropriate. And
that
like
is really inappropriate.
Like this was a real relationship, and like not only is it on social media, but now I try to go on a dating app to move on, and like guys are bringing up, like it happened multiple times.
Tact.
Super unpleasant.
Yeah.
Not the best tact, and it happened multiple times. Or like guys, the one that I don't really care about, but it still somehow triggered me, was like, "Oh my God, you're on that show. I watched your show." And I was like, yeah, the show that like my entire storyline was this public relationship. Like, and I'm now single and on an app. Like, this is not a conversation starter I want.
Yeah.
I prefer to date guys who don't watch the show or don't know about the show. I had a great time on it, but I just like in my dating life, like I don't want someone who would know who Michael is.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
But I have like, I'm very picky also. So like with guys and stuff, like I don't know. I'm picky, and this is part of why I kind of did lose a little bit of hope after the relationship, because I was like, as it is just so. Like, I have very specific things that I like about people, about guys. And so, like, I'm like, how am I going to find someone else who, like, ticks these boxes? But I've decided to be open-minded about it. So I am on, like, dating apps and stuff. But now I'm kind of gotten more back on them. And I think if I really vibe with someone, I'll definitely, like, go out for a drink or something.
Mm-hmm.
But my friends are definitely telling me to, like, really go out there and, like, have a hoe face or something. And I was like, that's just not necessarily for me, but I definitely think I can have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and,
of course. You got to do what's right for you. Like,
exactly.
I personally wouldn't do that either. Like, that's just not me. But, like,
there's
is
other
all
ways
about,
to have fun.
like,
Exactly.
having
To
fun
channel
and
that.
going out.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
meeting new people,
Yeah.
As you're, like, trying to go out there and find the right person to go on a date with or try something out with, Bumble has a feature called incognito mode, where you can browse on the app and like look at people's profiles and see if you would personally be a good match with them. Do you like them? Not do they like you? Without them even like knowing that you have a profile.
And essentially, like, the snooze mode is for if you, the user, are still wanting to be a part of playing the field, but not actively, like, seeking to date in this, like, moment. You still get your matches, and the other person knows that you're on snooze mode, and so there's no expectation. It's just kind of like, oh, like, okay, I see where you're at, but you can still experience and be in the pool, but we all just know that you don't consciously want it in this moment.
Yeah.
That's helpful, because a lot of times it's like you go back and forth with someone, and then either you or the person just stops responding because you're not like emotionally really ready for it.
Yeah.
And there's this confusion of like, why are you on the app? But you know.
So we've talked about the process of like healing and grieving and growing. When you are ready, what do you guys think you'll put on your profile?
So the first thing I think I'd lean into on Bumble is probably like the confidence and like that badass energy. Like, I think if I feel hot and sexy in a photo, I'm going to post that photo anyways and not think about, oh, well, it's a bikini photo, therefore a guy's gonna think that that's the only thing I want to do is sleep with him. No, maybe I just think I look hot in this bikini photo. It's really that simple.
So obviously the path of like being fully healed from a relationship is non-linear and very circuitous, and like you don't know where it starts or where it ends. But what are some green flags in yourself that quantify like you being ready to step out into the dating world, and what are some green flags in a partner that would make you feel like reassured that this is the right move or the right person to move forward with?
I'll let you go first, and then I'll.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for green flags in yourself that you should really look out for is kind of what I touched upon earlier, but not needing anything from another person, because I had a really good conversation with a friend recently, Duncan, if he's watching this, about like he was basically saying that like we have the ego and then we have like the soul desire, and love is a very powerful thing, but the ego wants to control, and sometimes with our ego minds we have this need for we desire validation basically. We have a need to feel, we're looking for that person to make us feel loved or make us feel all of these qualities that we want to be, when in reality, we are all of those qualities anyways. You can be whatever you think you are. And so if you get comfortable in who you are, you know who you are, and you know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, you've learned to accept that, and you know where you're going with your life or what you want to do with your life, and your life is very full without a partner, then when you're dating, you're not seeking from that person, and that energy isn't needy or desperate even to them, but like it's not to not be desperate, it's to not get hurt
Of
and
course,
to not be unfulfilled in relationships. And then I think green flags in guys, I would say is, well, I think flakiness is a big red flag. So that's something that like in dating, if a guy makes plans and then he flakes repeatedly, I just will stop talking to them.
Yeah.
I think that is, so not being flaky is a green flag. And then I think, honestly, it's a lot of the stuff that they say, a lot of conversations. It's not behavior as much as like what things that they say like in the moment. Like I think guys who are very judgmental about women or judgmental about the world in general, I don't tend to like those qualities.
Yeah.
I think it's also like, regardless of what where the relationship goes when you're dating, like regardless if it's headed towards a relationship or whether it's a hookup or whatever, I think it's important to be like emotionally available. Like if you're like hooking up with someone or going on dates with someone, even if you're not dating them or in a monogamous relationship, why would you be emotionally closed off to someone and then still want to hook up with them? So it's like, if I sense that the person is emotionally closed off, even if it's a casual thing, I'm not interested, because I'm like, I don't even know you. You're keeping a wall up, and I'm myself, you know?
That's so interesting, because I feel like a tendency of mine is to be like, if someone looked at me and they were like, I want to give you the world, and like I see you for things you don't see in yourself, like that actually tends to scare me, because if I'm not seeing myself in that way, then I'm like, well, I don't trust you because I don't see that in me. So it feels like, it's just
is it manipulative?
Well, yeah, it's just like I have a hard time, like I had a hard time accepting love. And that is one of the things that I learned since like Chris, that like I was like, oh, like he just loved me so hard in the way that he did, and I had a hard time like grappling that. And now I'm like, oh, like I'm the needy one, you know what I mean? Like I like really do want to be loved, but it's just like getting out of my own way. And I think like when I do that, however that happens, a conscious decision or a feeling, that will be a green flag for sure. You know? But I was also going to piggyback on what you were saying. I've been doing obviously like a lot of reading and like introspection and blah, blah. And like one of the things that I walked away with was like, are you jumping into relationship because you're sharing? You're like, oh, I have so much to share? Or is it because you want to take? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like what you were saying is like, am I here to give because I have so much already? Or am I wanting because I'm feeling like, exactly, like there's a dependency on like what I think I need from someone else in order to fill my cup. You know what I mean?
I love that. That's like a very like a better way of saying it than I said it.
I think I like forget where I read that, and it was just like, oh, it might have been like Yoon Pueblo or something, who I love. But I thought that was pretty, for me, that felt like, oh yeah, because I can be a bit of a taker. Like I can just like naturally be like, yeah, like I'll take. It's just in many ways. But I also am a giver. I also tend to villainize myself. So it's both. It's like it's a balance of all the things. So when I read that, I was like, oh, that's something I'm gonna always like remember about, like where am I in my space as I'm possibly opening up, you know, the chance to start back up again or whatever.
So we've learned a lot today. I really hope everyone watching has learned as much as I have, because sitting here watching you both has made me feel a lot more confident in like the future path of my life, no matter what gets thrown in there. Thank you guys for being so raw and vulnerable. I know this is hard to talk about. It's emotional and deep within you, and it's scary to talk about. So I really appreciate you guys being open and doing that. I think some of the biggest takeaways I got was like setting realistic expectations for yourself, not pushing yourself, but not keeping yourself isolated in a corner, and just like being authentic to who you are is really important in this process. Another thing being that endings happen, big culminations of periods in your life happen, and that doesn't mean that it is like the end of everything in your life. Like you said, it was kind of like missing the old version of you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that old version of you was like who you were meant to be in this life. I think that was a really important takeaway. Are there any last things you want to say for anyone watching?
I think mine would just be for women watching this, especially women in their 20s. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is like your 50-year-old version of yourself, like, is, whether she's married and settled down or not, would really be so sad to see this young, hot, sexy, beautiful person, like, so wasting her youth on like pining after a guy, or like, and of course like heartbreak and stuff like that, like those are real things that you have to sit through. But like a lot of times I think we get caught up in pining after people who we're just like casually dating, or some random guy, like, you know, like it's important to build your life up and build yourself up so much and to such a degree that like with or without a guy you're fulfilled and you'll be okay. And at that moment is actually when usually the right person will come to you, and they'll match your vibrational frequency, and they won't be giving you that bare minimum low vibrational energy, because you won't tolerate that, because you're going to be so built up yourself. So.
Yes, vibration. Yeah. That's real. I guess to piggyback on that is just like, where do you naturally, like, where are the choices being made in your day-to-day that like can get you to a high frequency kind of like level, right, with yourself, and whether that's like things that bring you joy, things that let you up, and all of that. Find those like things, those activities, and be around those people who, when you walk up to them, they light up when they see you, and you light up when you see them, and allow you to like be you and remember who you are pre-relationship, and so like when you're walking through life, you go, oh, like this is who I am, and I want to share him again, or her, you know what I mean?
Thank you guys so much again for coming on here, and thank you guys for tuning in to Looking For, brought to you by Bumble. I'm Amelie Zilber, and you can catch up on all 8 episodes of Looking For right here on the Past Your Bedtime YouTube channel.